Chinese love. China says it built a railway system in some African country out of altruism, which is unselfishness, self-sacrifice, humanity, philanthropy, or selflessness. But Africans are very trusting because over 63% are excited about Chinese investments in Africa. Committee time. Africa's news alert. New China Africa. Do we realize that Beijing continues to colonize Africa slowly? That China is progressively clawing its claws into Africa to own it? That African leaders are complicit to this just as they were during the colonial and enslaving periods? The masses are easygoing and only a tiny few are shouting that this is not a life-saving investment. Who accelerated this speed of the Chinese? Was Africa's hero selling out when he said look east policy was the policy to adopt? This is the former president of Zimbabwe, President Robert Mugabe, and Jacob Zuma. And they all say what colonization? They think there was nothing wrong with that. But we see that Beijing continues to colonize Africa as a 2,000-year plan unveils right in our eyes. They've built, China built its headquarters, the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, and they donated 200 million US dollars when they built this. They also supplied material, labor, management, and many, many other things. But on top of that, they also bagged the whole place. And we know that the new China is Africa in their perception. You can watch this YouTube. You can see this Chinese in Mozambique cutting and destroying Mozambique and exporting and sending all the timber to China, leaving Mozambique as a desert. A Chinese entrepreneur at his logging depot in Beira City, local activists claim that China has caused the deforestation of 25% of central Mozambique. These photographs are by Luis de las Alas. In Angola, Chinese guard a construction site on the outskirts of Luanda. In Africa, Chinese diplomats present themselves as an alternative foreign superpower without the baggage of colonialism, which is a lie, a total lie, which is deceptive, which is deceiving, because here we see a Chinese farmer in the Congo and one of his workers, an African, carrying bags in a warehouse in Congo where a $6 billion infrastructure for resource rights deal has raised eyebrows. So we see again the Chinese workers in front of Merowe in the Sudan, a controversial dam that was built on the Nile, a project that has already forced over 50,000 Sudanese black people to move away from fertile land, the Nile land, so that the Chinese can grow grain to supply their own people in China. What China now owns, which was once owned by Africans in Africa. See there, Edgar Lungu, president of Zambia, his country now owes 13 billion of loans to China. This is Mozambique, and you see this orange is the forest cover. That is 2003. This is only 3 years later, around 2008, 2007. It's deforested already, and this is what they are living in Mozambique and elsewhere, and all the timber it goes to China to support China. And you can see here the new China. They've built their own bridge in Mozambique and South Africa. To the contract was worth almost $1 billion United States dollars, with 95% of it funded by China through preferential and bias loans. And that they have got the gumption and the audacity to put new China on top of it. You can find this in zinuanet.com. We can already see the police and the military control of Africa is already underway. In South Africa, they have already over 26 police stations. Do you think this policewoman or governor or whoever knows what this Chinese is smiling about? The Chinese is smiling because his flag is now #1 in Africa. They now have the police stations in South Africa. China and South Africa to host military logistics symposium. The army is already being taken over in South Africa by the Chinese. Chinese army in the Sudan to protect their fields and their grains and their crops. These are the mulattoes that are coming and that are already in Africa. In Djibouti, the Chinese have already taken over and have built a military base there, which has the Navy, the Air Force, and the Ground Force. And our brothers and sisters in Djibouti are excited and are happy. They are lifting the Chinese flag. They think that their savior has come. In Kenya, rail and ports has gone to the Chinese. And also there was a Chinese who wanted to buy Nairobi and own it. And this is Entebbe Express in Uganda. Uganda is gone. Kenya is gone. Ethiopia is gone, Zambia is gone, every country, you name. Museveni, president of Uganda, has this audacity to say in the face of his people that he is not their servant. He is protecting his own. He doesn't know what is coming in.
His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni.
I hear some people saying that I am their servant. I'm not a servant of anybody. I am a freedom fighter. That's what I do. I don't do it because that I'm your servant. I'm not your servant. I am just a freedom fighter. I'm fighting for myself, for my beliefs. That's how I come in. I'm not an employee. If anybody thinks he gave me a job, he's deceiving himself. I am just a freedom fighter whom you thought could help you also.
He has already demonstrated that, listen to the video, he has already demonstrated that he is for China. What Chinese think of Africa is not what Africans think of Chinese. The Chinese, they don't think highly of Africans. Afrobarometer shows that 63% of Africans say Chinese influence is somewhat positive or very positive, while only 15% see it as somewhat negative. One of those people in the 15%, I see it as negative. I don't want it. Chinese thinks Africans stink, and 63% Africans love these Chinese. She thinks we stink. They don't like us at all. They don't like us even a minute. Overwhelmingly positive attitude towards China of Africans is not countermanded by them. They think we are animals. In China, the African people are compared as animals in Chinese museum. You can find this on this website that we are showing here. In China, the Chinese people treat Africans or any other people of dark pigmentation as trash, as well as not worth to be respected. That's why they are coming to Africa. They want to wipe out trash and they want to replace African. Hindustan Times reports that India has joined forces for land in Africa, but China is way, way ahead. China is buying land in Sudan and Ethiopia to raise grain to feed its starving population. It is threatening to appropriate Africa's great river, the River Nile. They have already built a dam there. And also they have proposed that they can write off East African loans or debt and given the permission to own and run Lake Victoria for 231 years. We are not learning from history. The Payakash's principle should have awakened us. You can listen and view our video, Hamiti Hebrew Ethics video, entitled Global Agenda Against Black Asians. You should have the Payakash's principle, The Great Secret of Asia, by researcher by MBE. You have in your hand the most fascinating and advanced scientific research on Asia's history. Century by century, the clever forgery of Asia's history is revealed and unveiled. Since 2014, the Payakash's principle has revolutionized the historiography of Asia by showing that there were black people who founded China and all Korea and Japan and all other Asian countries, who were wiped out in a genocidal war that continued year after year. For 3,000 years of uninterrupted mass crimes and genocide, with hundreds of millions of black people being killed and being wiped out, who were wiped out by the Chinese, who are coming into Africa to invest. The Payakash's principle in your hand gives you the operative knowledge that will tell us to not give the Chinese immigration rights or any rights to our land. We do not want them to come and destroy Africa. We are not learning from history. We have already given China the power to own these lands, to own our oil, to own our minerals, to own our metals, to own our timber. All these countries, they now have their infrastructure in place. The mistakes of our chiefs during colonialism and the arrival of Europeans involved two mistakes. One, we tolerated Christianity and Islam, and we were friendly towards people who were non-pigmented. Non-Africans were tolerated. Today, the masses are unaware of the history and genocidal appetite of the Chinese that are coming to get involved in their police and in their army. Read the Payakash's principle to learn that China wants Africa and its resources and does not want any African to be there. Our leaders are totally oblivious to this fact. Leaders like President Buhari of Nigeria, former President of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, and all of them are welcoming the Chinese, signing loan deals that seem to benefit them only and not the masses, not realizing that they are signing their death warranty and accepting genocidal people to come into Africa. What can we do? What can you do? Participate from today in a mass awakening drive. Using social media, word of mouth, spread the message of the Paeket's principle. We all rise with one voice and say no, no, no to Chinese invasion. If each African tells a minimum of 5 people daily via social media, there will be a mass awareness and a mass awakening. Then we will be able to insist, using the grassroots, that our government should never lease our land and reverse all other deals, and that they should never use any land as collateral. There is already a call that is awakening. You should join that. You should not hesitate. You should take your stance now. You should send this message now. The issues that we are dealing with here are dire. Realize that China is not our friend. By informing all Africans on earth and spreading this daily, you would send your punch and your blow to the strategy of our subtle enemy. We take our governments to task so that they can openly declare the deals signed and how they will come out of those deals. Africa is bigger than all of us. We do not want it to become a new China. We can never share it with the Chinese or their mulattoes. We must unite now or perish. We must recognize that our economic independence resides in our African Union and requires the same concentration upon the political achievement that we had. This was said by former President and Prime Minister of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, in his address to the founding of the OAU in Addis Ababa in 1963, which today they have allowed the Chinese to build and donate and to bag and to spy. This is Priest Rabbi LM Dumizulu of Hamiti Hebrew Ethics. Subscribe to our channel and visit us on our website, lifespiritofamencame.com. Contact us on this email if you desire to fight at the spiritual level and to arm yourself with greater spiritual armor. Contact us on lmtumizulu@gmail.com. This is our time to walk with God again. Thank you. Goodbye.